Okay, so we've got a bit of a workaround, but we'll try it. I have to confess, I'm not sure why we're not getting prompted to run a migration. I've tried running it, it didn't build our tables. So what I've done is I have a script which I've put on Blackboard. It's in the week 6 folder. It's the identity table script. So let's go and download this file from Blackboard. So download your SQL file. You'll need to open up Management Studio and connect to your database. So it's this file right here on Blackboard, this identity table script. So it's just an SQL file that'll create the tables we need. So I'm going to open up my file.
What is it?
So make sure once you open it up that you're connected to your Control-Alt-PC database, and I'm going to try and run the script. So now if I refresh my list of tables, I have a bunch of tables prefixed with ASP.NET. Yes, if you're connecting, well, this is local. Yeah. Yeah, don't run it. Well, it'll fail. It'll say cannot create table. Tables already exist. There's no drop table statements in there. So it'll just fail if you try and recreate the same tables. Okay, if those tables are there, yes, don't recreate them. They're already there. So I'll try again. I admit I'm a bit confused why we didn't get prompted to build the tables. I ran through this 3 times yesterday.
So were we just running this?
Yeah, just execute that script against your database. And then I'll try one more time to sign up. Hopefully I won't get an error saying my ASP.NET users table doesn't exist, since we just built it. Okay. Okay. Make sure if you got an invalid identity, make sure you change this file in views login partial, views shared, this login partial file on lines 2 and 3. We change this default to identity user. I change those to say application user. You change those already? So Blair, if you still have an issue, I'll come and have a look. If I look in my ASP.NET users table now, my email is here. So my ID, did you mean to pull that file back up? Okay. So I did, so you downloaded the file from Blackboard, yep. And you're connected to your database. Okay, so you click on File and Open in Management Studio and choose File and just browse to where you downloaded it. The identity.sql file. and make sure your database is selected here. Once the file's open, you just click the execute button and it will build the tables. Well, you have to it's in Blackboard in week 6. It's the identity table script file. So just save that to your machine. And then you can open it up and execute it. So this is what a user account looks like. An ID, it gets this long kind of random string of characters, the email. It hashes the password. It also salts it. So we've got this security stamp. So the reason for doing this is if multiple users enter the same password, if we just hash it, the hashed values will be the same for everyone's password, which isn't ideal. So the security stamp is a random string that's used in the algorithm to generate the hashed password. So if we all put in the same password, everyone will get a unique value stored in the database. And then we're not really storing, if it's locked out, we're not really worrying about those things. And as soon as I register, notice it actually shows my username and log out. So register and log in are hidden, and my hello and log out appear.
So now once we have these in here, we can do what we did before and create controllers to use in that port, or we still do that part?
We don't have, it's identity handles all of it. So let's look at how this works. So we built a categories controller. So let's say we're dealing with authentication first. We're not doing authorization. We're not dealing with roles and permissions. We're only dealing with, is the user logged, does the user have a valid login, yes or no? And what we want to do is restrict access to everything in our categories controller to users who are logged in. So if I'm not logged in, I shouldn't be able to get to any of these pages. So there's a simple way we can implement this. If I open my categories controller, so under controllers and categories, I can control access either to the whole controller or I can control access to any individual method. So let's say, first of all, maybe let's just say that if I'm an anonymous user, I can't delete a category. I can still add, edit, and view, but I can't delete anything. So in my categories controller, if I go down to this method here, this get categories delete, if I add here the annotation in square brackets of authorize, that means I shouldn't be able to load the delete page if I'm not logged in. Now I do get an error here. So it wants me to reference the authorization library. So I'll just accept that. And now if I build, we can see how this works. I'm going to need 2 different browser windows to test this. One where I'm logged in and one where I'm logged out. Probably easier. So remember, this is based on cookies. So even though I've restarted and built, it'll still keep me logged in. It won't force me to log in again because I have a cookie in Firefox. I'll also open a tab within, so I can go here, I'm logged in, and if I click on the delete link, when I'm logged in and it shows me a hello message and my email address, right? It'll take me to this view. I'm not actually going to delete it, but I can load this page when I'm logged in. I'll then take the link just to my home page, and I'll open it up in Chrome, where I'm not logged in. So my nav bar should say register and log in here. So I'm going to go to my categories page. Now this page is still public, right? There's no restriction on who can get here. I can get here as an anonymous user. I can get here as an authenticated user. But over here in Chrome now, if I click delete, it says I'm not authenticated, so it bounces me back to the login screen. So we can control one page at a time who is allowed in and who's locked out. Now, I don't really want to restrict access just to delete. Let's say I want to restrict access to the entire controller. If you're not logged in, you can't do anything with the categories, all private. So in this case, I'm going to go back to my controller. I'll take this authorize and I'm going to move it. So I'll just cut it off of this method declaration and I'll put it on line 13 right above my class. This is going to make all of the methods in here require authentication. So as an anonymous user now, I can't access the categories at all. I have to be logged in to see any method inside here.
Can you see, like, you just can't edit or do any of the...
Yeah, this is only on the back end. So the links would still be here if I could see them. So we'll have to deal with that too. So again, I'll refresh in Firefox where I'm logged in and my page should reload because it knows I've already authenticated. So my main window in Firefox, I'm logged in. I'll try and load my categories index view in both browsers. So in Firefox, no problem. As long as I'm logged in, I can go anywhere. I can create, I can edit. But in Chrome, I can't access anything. So even if I try and go to the URL directly, so let's say I go to categories/create. It still bounces me back, but it does keep track of where I tried to go. So if I log in now, it'll actually take me straight to that page. So when I log in properly, it takes me right to the place I tried to access that it wouldn't let me. So we have very granular control of what things we're allowing people to see and do. So we can also override this. So let's say, for example, as an anonymous user, I want to be able to see the list of categories, but I can't modify any data. I can't go to the add, the edit, or the delete. Probably the simplest way. So in general, almost everything in here is private except for one method. So the most efficient way to do this is let's declare at the class level, hey, this whole thing's private, but for index, we can add, for example, allow anonymous only to this method. So that makes our index method public. Everything else is still private. So if I add this allow anonymous only to this method. In Chrome, I should now be able to load that index view with the list. But as soon as I click any of the links, it'll send me back to login because I don't have access to create, to edit, or delete. So I'll log out in Chrome. And now I should be able to go to the main page, but all of the links inside should, so I can get to the main page even though I'm anonymous. But if I go here, nope, I don't have access to any of these. So index is the only thing I can do. Now, probably not a great idea to even show me these links, right? This is just asking a hacker saying, well, we don't have access, but here's some pages, some other things we have that we're not letting you in to see. So we could add some logic in the view, much like we said we have here in Blackboard. Right? We are looking at the same view, but we see different things. So we could add a bit of logic to show or hide the links based on whether the user's logged in or not. So an anonymous user could see our categories, but they have no knowledge that they can be changed. So we could go to our views, categories, and index. And we can wrap our create, edit, and delete links inside of a couple basic if statements. We have access to the user information because anywhere with the user object. So we can check our user.identity. There's an is authenticated property. So this will tell us if the current user is logged in or not. So if the user is authenticated, we'll just move our create link inside of this code block. So now we should only see that link if we're logged in. If we're not logged in, it won't be there. We've got the same kind of logic in Blackboard with all those elements you guys identified earlier, like the student preview, the little arrows, the hidden items. All of those things are wrapped in these similar kinds of if statements. So if I save that, shrink this down. So in Chrome, where I'm anonymous, my create new link here is going to disappear. So I've blocked access in the controller, and then also in the view, I've hidden the link. There's no point giving somebody a link to click that we're not going to let them see. Let's just hide it. So we still have these links. So we probably want to wrap this section inside of a similar if block. So down here, I'll add the same logic. So if our user.identity.is authenticated, then I wonder if we need to put our TD inside, maybe. It seems to like that a little better. It wants some kind of, when it's multiple lines, it wants this wrapping around it. So only add that column if the user's logged in. So this should hide our links. It should hide the links for me again if I'm in Chrome. If I'm in Firefox, So in Firefox, I get everything. In Chrome, I get a read-only view with no hint that there's the ability for me to change anything. Yes. So this is the first level. This is just basic authentication. So if you're logged in, you can do certain things and see certain things. And if you're anonymous, you're prevented from doing certain things or seeing certain things. So we probably want to do these checks in both places. We want to use that authorize command in the controllers to prevent people from accessing pages in the site they should not access. And then we can control the logic in our UI with if statements, show or hide certain things, depending on who the user is. So we haven't done anything with roles at all, right? Right now, this is strictly you're an authenticated user or you're anonymous. So this is the first level. Yeah, so here's the problem. So the issue right now is if I sign up with another account, all the same logic applies, right? There's no difference between any two users. Anything one user can do, another user can do. So what we want to do is create a couple of roles and then create a second account and put those two accounts in two different roles. And then we'll add the authorization so only an administrator can do things like manage categories, for example. So to do this, we have a roles table, but if we look at what's in it, there are no roles by default. The idea is we have a place to store the roles, but you have to decide for your own application what kinds of roles are there. So if it's Blackboard, you know, the roles are administrator, faculty, student, coordinator, perhaps. So they don't give us any kind of set roles. No, not for this. We would have to do it manually. It doesn't give us anything for the roles, for the role manager. Yes, you could. Yes, you could. What I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to manually, through my database, insert two roles. So there's a quick script on Blackboard. We're going to copy and run. So it's right here, SQL for users and roles. So what we're going to do is create an administrator role and a customer role. And then we're going to take the existing user account and make that user an administrator. We'll put them in role ID 1. So you can just copy these 3 lines. Just highlight them and copy them. And we can just make a new query in Management Studio, paste them in and execute it. So copy those. I'll click the new query button, I'll paste them in. So it's going to create an ID 1 of administrator, an ID 2 of a customer. And it says, whatever users you currently have, I only have 1, and I created it with the email admin, make that user, put them in role 1. So my existing user will be an administrator now. So I'll just check it and execute it. Okay, sorry, we need to do one thing. Okay, into ASP.NET roles. All right, we'll just modify this slightly. Name. We'll just repeat the roles. So I'll just give that a value here as well. Try it again. Okay, so it's created my administrator and customer roles, and it's taken the existing account and we've now put them in the administrator role. For part 2 with your assignment, when you implement security, you don't need different roles. You don't need to do authorization. We're simply going to do authentication. Basically, you're going to modify assignment 1 so anonymous users can only read your data. In order for somebody to be able to add, edit, and delete, they'll have to register and log in. That's basically what you have to do for the first part of assignment 2. If you want to add roles, you can, but it isn't required. So now I'm going to register a second account. This will be a customer account, so this person won't be an administrator. So then we'll see that we can change access based on not only if the user's logged in, but we can control what they're allowed to do based on which role they're in. So I'm going to go back to one of my browsers. I'm going to register, but this time I'll create a customer account. So now I've got 2 different accounts, administrator, and we manually put the administrator in the administrator role. The customer is actually not in any role, which is okay. We know they're not an administrator. So now as a customer, the way we've written our logic, right, I'm authenticated, so now I have access to add, edit, delete categories again. We want to restrict this now, not just based on authentication, but it should only be administrators that can see these links and modify the categories in the database. We're not going to let customers do it. So what we're going to do in our categories controller is in here, we're going to add to our authorize statement that this is restricted to users in the administrator role. So we can have multiple roles allowed in here, but I'm only going to allow administrators in. So down here, this overrides the controller level authentication. So what should happen now is as an administrator, I can still do everything, but as a customer, I should be locked out, except for the index view. Customer, I can see the list of categories, but I can't change anything.
And can you have multiple roles in that lineup there?
Yes, so let's say there are 2 different roles. Yes, you would just separate them by commas. But the names have to match the names in our roles table. Exactly. So if I called it admin here and administrator here, I'd be locking everybody out. So role names must match role names in the database. Exactly. So as an administrator now, I can still get to my category list. I guess I should open a third browser because now we have 3 scenarios. Logged in as an administrator, logged in as a customer. We should also still look what happens if I'm logged in, not logged in at all. So as a customer, I can still load the index view, but I get access denied when I try to call any of the other methods. As an administrator, I still have nothing. All right, what happened? Oh, we're missing a table. Okay. This is what I thought we'd get much earlier. We missed this table, ASP.NET role claims. That was not in the script I gave you. Sorry, the version of the script I gave you is older. They've updated this. So I'm going to see if this will work. If not, we may have to build this table manually, and that's fine. If that's, we can do that, or I can create the script quickly. So I'm going to try this, apply migrations. This worked successfully for me last night. I was expecting to get this much earlier. So this will do a database update and create the table we need, hopefully. It's awesome that I did this 3 times yesterday successfully. Okay. In Visual Studio, we'll try this. We may have to create, I think we're going to have to create this table manually as well. Awesome. All right, we can do it though. I'm going to try it this way first. Let's try update database. I think we're going to have to do this manually. I'm not expecting this to work. Yeah, let's see if that gave us the tear table. That's odd. What table does it say we're missing? ASP.NET role claims. That we're missing that table. Okay, we're still missing it. Crap. So what does our role claims table look like? So here's the table we're missing. An ID, a claim type, a claim value, and a role ID. So 4 strings. I'll build this manually and I'll create the script later, but we can just build it without any code. So I'm going to make a new table. So I'm just creating this table here. All of these are strings. And I'll save it as ASP.NET role claims. We'll see if this does. If it works, I can script it and throw it up on Blackboard. Oh, let's try again.
I was just saying that, like, we were just continuing for the fact that we do the time score with it. A little bit different part of it with like warranty. And I said, I felt like I like warranty because the first thing I got, and it was
Okay, so here's the table we need. Here's the script. I'll add it on Blackboard. We need this as well. I'll just edit this item.
oh, yeah, all I know is after. Yeah.
Okay, so I've updated this SQL for users and roles. We ran these three commands, and we now need this create table. If we don't have the role claims, it doesn't keep track of who's in what role. So what's highlighted in blue, this create table, we'll just copy and throw that into Management Studio and run it. I'll add it to the original script, so it'll be part of what's there. And you can use this script to build the tables in your assignment, so you can run the same script against your assignment database. Yep, you can just do it as a new query and just paste it in and execute it. All right, I'm going to try one more time my categories.
It's not working for me.
So now as an administrator, it knows I'm in the right role and I can still access, create, edit, and delete. As a customer, I get the links. So we can also add a link in our navigation bar that's only visible to administrators. So if I log in and I have an admin account, I should have a link that will take me to the categories page so I can manage the categories in my store. I keep typing the URL, which is awfully inconvenient. So if we go to our layout file, I'm going to add a link here. So I'll maybe just copy that link. So the controller will be categories. My link will say categories. But I'm going to wrap this in an if statement so it's only visible to administrators. So in this case, rather than checking if the identity is authenticated, I want to check this property instead, is in role. So this isn't authentication based, it's authorization based. Not is the user anonymous or logged in, but are they logged in and also are they in the proper role? So I'm going to pick user.isInRole, and now I have to provide the name of the role. So if our user is in the administrator role, show this link. So now a customer won't see that link, an anonymous user won't see that link, but an administrator will. So let's see how this So it's lines 39 to 43 I've just added. So I'll refresh as an administrator. Now I have a categories link that shows up that I can use to go here. As soon as I log out, this link should disappear. So I'm no longer authenticated. I'm no longer in any role at all. If I try and go back there, right, I get the read-only version of the page, but I don't see the link. I would have to log back in with my admin account. And my link shows back up. So I'm controlling access both in the controller as well as controlling access in the views by showing or hiding links depending on the user's permission levels. So we want to manage this in both. We need to hide things people shouldn't see, and we need to block them in the controller methods or at the controller as a whole from accessing pages or parts of our website that they shouldn't have access to. Sorry? Yep. It will still take you there because we did set allow anonymous. Now, at the end of that URL, put on /create and see what happens. You should get access denied if you try and go to any other method besides index. Right? So you can get to index only because we've overridden that rule that says you have to be an administrator. We're making this one page public. So you can decide fully what can people see and what can they not. Right, if click on, right, so click, yeah, when you click one, right, so we could do the same. What we did here, so the logic actually isn't quite right? Because right now, as a customer, I see the links. So we should probably change these to also use check the role, right? That would make more sense that we change these as well. So it probably makes sense to do it this way. Oops. So I changed user.identity.isAuthenticated. We're changing that to user.isEnroll administrator. So our customer shouldn't see those links either. So I changed that on lines 9 and 30. So it's the same, exact same if statement on line 9 and line 30. So then if you refresh as a customer, those links will disappear. I will rewrite the script for you so that you can use it in your assignment. You don't have to do any authorization in your assignment, only authentication. So next week, we'll have our midterm. The week after the midterm, we'll do two things. We'll do a review of the midterm, and that'll be an in-class lab that we do. And then we'll also look at adding social authentication. So how can we enable, for example, Google login as an alternative to somebody using this, our own database to register and log in. So I will push the code, and there are some slides here for you to refer to in the week 6 folder. And I will start marking as soon as I can.